Y a partir de este momento, Montgomery al Día. Un programa presentado por el Condado de Montgomery con el objetivo de mantener a la población latina informada sobre todo lo que acontece en nuestro condado. Un espacio informativo para que usted obtenga acceso directo a los servicios de su gobierno local. Aquí da inicio Montgomery al Día. Queda con ustedes la presentadora de este programa y portavoz hispana del condado de Montgomery, Lorna Virgili.
Así es, queridos amigos. Buenas tardes y muchísimas gracias por esa sintonía. Una vez más, Montgomery al Día y acá su portavoz hispana de este condado para ya sellar este año 2025, señores, que se nos ha ido rapidísimo. Y bueno, en este día en particular tenemos un invitado muy especial, nada menos y nada más que nuestro ejecutivo del condado de Montgomery, Marc Elrich. Patricia, ¿estamos en vivo en la página de Facebook? No veo que estamos en vivo todavía en Facebook. A ver si vamos a hacer esa transmisión para que las personas también puedan ver al ejecutivo. Ya sabe, nuestra página es Montgomery County en español. Bueno, vamos a dar la bienvenida. Bienvenido, señor ejecutivo Elrich. Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
¿Cómo está?
Bien, un poco cansado.
No voy a preguntarle por qué está cansado, porque yo sé que usted tiene una agenda muy agitada y mucho trabajo en nuestro condado. Bueno, this 2025, I feel like I blinked and it just went by very quickly. I cannot believe this is pretty much the last show for 2025. What would you say you're most proud of for accomplishments this year?
Wow. This year's kind of a blur. Look, I think we did a lot of affordable housing again this year, which is really important. We were able to find partners, and we've been able to build a fair number of housing units, and it's exciting because it's something the private sector doesn't do. And when we build things, we build projects that are primarily affordable to people. So that to me is pretty exciting. I think
let me go ahead and interpret that very quickly. Le preguntaba, ¿no? ¿Qué tal este año que se nos ha ido tan rápido? Para él dice que este año ha sido así un poco opaco por todo lo que se ha logrado y se ha hecho, pero definitivamente el tema de la vivienda asequible, donde se han podido asegurar pues viviendas con el sector privado y socios comunitarios. Continue, please.
And I feel like, we've been able to make progress on a lot of our goals. In the social sphere, we were able to get a lot of money into food again this year because the needs have been, really serious. We were able to fund the school budget and make sure that they got the resources they needed to hire the special education teachers they needed. We've made some big steps in economic development in terms of a major project in the east side of the county. And that's going to result in thousands of jobs and thousands of housing units. So a lot of good stuff in general.
En general, muchas cosas buenas, sobre todo en lo que se han cumplido varias metas del tema de la esfera social. Se ha continuado la asistencia alimentaria en nuestro condado, se pudo pues darle frente al presupuesto completo de las escuelas públicas, el desarrollo económico en la zona este del condado de Montgomery y también la creación de miles de empleos precisamente en esa zona. Of course, with met goals come challenges.
Yep.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge this year?
The biggest challenge is having a president of the United States who has no respect for human life and has very little regard for people in the community and openly is disdainful of minorities. He's a kind of president we haven't had in probably a century, and it's kind of monstrous.
El reto mayor, pues obviamente, tener un presidente en la nación que verdaderamente no tiene un enfoque en los derechos humanos, poca preocupación por el cuidado de las comunidades y también de las minorías. Más de 100 años un siglo que no tenemos un presidente así en nuestro país. Un enfoque en los derechos humanos, poca preocupación. since you're talking about that, Mr. County
Yeah.
Executive, for the Spanish-speaking community, the federal immigration issue has been a top priority and concern, obviously, this
Right.
year. Can you summarize how that federal immigration policies have impacted and affected Montgomery County in general this year?
I think the biggest immediate impact has been fear. They haven't started the big raids here that we've seen in other parts of the country, though the number of arrests have picked up over the last few days. They're getting more active. Early on, they were understaffed. Now they're getting fully staffed, and as they get fully staffed, we expect to see more of this. They continue to not identify themselves, not have warrants, do all kinds of things that we would normally consider to be illegal, but apparently they're allowed to do that. So, the fear in the community is real. People are, afraid to walk their kids to school. They're afraid to go to work in some cases. And that's very destabilizing for these families. It's destabilizing for our community as a whole.
El mayor reto, ¿no? Obviamente para nuestra comunidad hispanoparlante con el tema migratorio, pues ha sido el temor. Un temor colectivo. No hemos experimentado redadas grandes aún en nuestro condado de Montgomery, pero sí se han llevado a cabo arrestos. Han sido más activos recientemente porque antes no habían suficientes empleados de ICE en esta zona. Ahora sí los hay. El hecho de que se presentan sin identificarse, pues esto es algo que consideramos ilegal, pero aparentemente ellos lo pueden hacer y por supuesto el temor de las personas de caminar a sus hijos al colegio o de llegar al trabajo, pues continúa en nuestra comunidad. Would you do a quick message for the community regarding this particular topic, Mr. County Executive?
Well, we've said from the very beginning of his administration that Montgomery County is not going to change. We're still going to take care of people. We're still going to run the programs that we run that support people in the community. We provide food when it's necessary. We've got healthcare clinics in the community to serve those folks who don't have access to insurance. Everything we've done, we're going to continue to do. Our police are here to protect you. They're not going to participate with ICE in any of the raids they're conducting. So we want to just reassure people that as much as we can, we're going to keep things as normal as we can. If they do big raids, when they're talking about, large numbers of soldiers, the county has no ability to push back on that. But we've got the ability in everyday life to make sure people feel safe and that we can support them.
Déjeme hacer una interpretación de eso. El mensaje para nuestra comunidad con el tema migratorio es uno que él ha recalcado varias veces. Los principios en nuestro condado no cambian. Seguimos con el enfoque de cuidar de las personas, apoyar con los programas de alimentación, también de salud para aquellos que no tienen seguro médico y proteger a las personas lo más posible. La policía en el condado de Montgomery pues se dedica precisamente a eso, a proteger, no participa en las redadas, en los arrestos con ICE y bueno, si veamos en nuestro condado en el futuro pues redadas más grandes, pues obviamente el condado no tiene una manera de verdaderamente impedirlo. And that puts us, the Trust Act that Council President Natalie Fani Gonzalez introduced just a few days ago. In plain language, what would that do differently than the previous executive order that you executed?
In plain language, it doesn't do a lot differently.
Okay.
It basically codifies the original order, which established the terms in which, we do, to the extent we do anything with ICE, it has to do with who is in jail and who would be released to them. And we added some more protections than were in the original executive order. So they made a couple of changes there. We're reducing the amount of time that we will notify ICE in order to come here. And basically, kind of restates that, our values are that we're going to look out for the community and take care of the community.
Como ustedes saben, pues la presidenta del Consejo, Natalie Fani González, presentó el acta, el proyecto de ley de confianza de la comunidad y básicamente esto lo que hace es codificar la orden ejecutiva que el Ejecutivo había presentado en términos de la colaboración con ICE cuando se trata de las personas que son encarceladas y son puestas en libertad. Y esto es lo que recalca también las protecciones para proteger a la comunidad en términos de las necesidades sociales que ya él nos conversaba. This year in particular, you've welcomed new Hispanic leaders to your administration. Gabe Albornoz back to the Department of Education, Luisa Cardona, Assistant Chief Administrative Officer, Nestor Alvarenga, Director of the Mid County Regional Services Center. These appointments, how do they signal your administration for the next year? And also in terms of assisting with what's happening immigration related?
Well, I think, these are three more people who have fluency in Spanish, which is important, and particularly, Wheaton, because of the high population there. Luisa Cardona, who is promoted here, was the former director at the Mid-County Regional Services Center. But she's now on board in my office, and she's in a role that was held by Sonia Mora, who was also a Spanish speaker. So we've maintained that, and Gabe goes back to the rec department where he was at during Ike's administration, and so he will take the reins at the rec department. I think, we continue to make sure that the people we appoint have connection to community and, know the problems that we're working with. Everybody involved in this, everybody we've appointed understands exactly what the challenges are and what the goals and principles the county has, and that they can be trusted to do the things we've said we're going to do to help keep the community safe.
Pues este año en particular la administración del Ejecutivo Marc Elrich ha contratado a personal importante, el señor Gabriel Albornoz, que ahora regresa a ser director del Departamento de Recreación, Luisa Cardona, subadministradora del condado, y Néstor Alvarenga, director del Centro Regional de la Zona Central del Condado. Luisa reemplaza a Sonia Mora, que era subdirectora, se jubiló, y parte de tener a estas personas hispanas en su administración, pues primero porque hablan el idioma y segundo, pues tienen conexiones comunitarias, están familiarizados con los problemas, los retos, las metas y los principios de esta administración. Let's transition real quick to public safety. MCPD has faced recruitment challenges, as we know, for many years. What progress has been made this year to rebuild the force and diversify it a little bit?
So we've done a couple, I think, big things that will not show up this year, but will show up in the next recruitment class. So one of the things that we've done is working with the University of Maryland, the next group, not this group, but the next group of officers who are trained in the academy will get college credit. And the county has a requirement right now that you have to have at least 60 credits from a university. And that's really challenging for a lot of people who, haven't gone to school, didn't, come out of high school. And so if they want to become a police officer, if they want to do it here, up till now, they would have to go back to school, which can be really challenging for a young adult when you have to go to school and try to balance that with work, when you can go to other departments all around the area that don't require that. So our change is going to give them the full 60 credits based on the rigorousness of the training we provide.
And this is at UMD, at the University of Maryland.
University of Maryland, yes.
Algo que se ha hecho en tema de lo que es seguridad pública y la contratación de nuevos agentes de la policía del condado de Montgomery, que continúa siendo un reto, es algo que vamos a ver el año próximo. Se ha entrado en un acuerdo con la Universidad de Maryland, de College Park, para aquellas personas que están estudiando, porque se requieren 60 créditos para hacerse policía y el reto es que muchas personas que no lo han completado tienen que regresar al colegio, a la universidad, y en este caso pues se ha llevado a cabo este acuerdo precisamente para que las personas interesadas ya vayan trabajando en ese adiestramiento. And we'll see that next year, correct?
Yes, you will.
Okay. All right. So how many members of the police force are we short? Do you recall from the top of your head?
Boy, I think the number is somewhere around 180.
Oh, that's not too bad. It used to be a whole
It's
lot.
it's it's bad. It means that
It is bad. It is bad, but it used to be a higher number, I recall.
it's been worse. But and we're working. We think that's why we think the next class is going to be bigger because without having that college requirement, a lot of people that we've turned away will not get turned away. And our goal is basically we'll create classes that are as large as they need to be to accommodate the applicants. So if we get a lot of applicants, we could fill this gap pretty quickly.
Exactamente. Tenemos, bueno, hacen falta unos 180 agentes del orden en el condado de Montgomery precisamente y esperamos que con este acuerdo con la universidad, pues este requisito, ¿no? De tener créditos universitarios, pues va a estrechar lo que es precisamente esta necesidad para las personas que trabajen. Let's talk about Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Services. We've had this year unprecedented flooding, etc. How is the county investing more in emergency preparedness?
Well, one big thing we're doing for flooding is we're doing a countywide study, which is going to take probably a total of 3 years. And we're looking at all of the county and how water drains. When it rains here, where does the water go? When it goes down your street, it disappears into an underground network of pipes. And the challenge we've had is that the piping system in many places is no longer able to handle the volume of water. So we're going to identify where these problems are, what we can do to treat water before it gets into the street. So these are things like rain gardens and things that, people can do in their own yards. And then we're going to look at what we need to do with physical infrastructure to build things that can help retain the water. Across the river in Arlington, I think it's Arlington, they built a huge underground tank underneath a football field where they divert water from storms and it goes in there first.
Go ahead and interpret that, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but time's ticking, and I have a bunch of topics, and this is a topic that we need half an hour to explain.
No doubt.
At the very least, inundaciones ha sido un tema grande en nuestro condado precisamente este año en particular, y algo de lo que se está haciendo es un estudio de 3 años donde para verdaderamente analizar hacia dónde va el agua. El alcantarillado pues no puede manejar el agua y pues estamos hablando de crear jardines de lluvia y a la misma vez quizás pues emular un concepto que ya tienen en una jurisdicción vecina, que es un gran tanque debajo de un campo de fútbol. Let's talk about expanding tenant protections. You signed into law.
Yes.
You did one yesterday, right?
Good.
And you signed Bill 625. So how has the landscape for renters changed in the county this year?
I think it's gotten harder. We have record number of evictions. We have almost 4 times as many evictions as we had 5 years ago. So that's a significant increase in evictions. And a lot of it stems from COVID. There are people who got behind on their rent and never caught up on their rent. And that's a problem. And a lot of those folks are facing eviction. And we're in a position where we've got to figure out how do we provide support. So this bill gives people 14 days. Previously, a tenant would get like a week's notice and then they would get evicted. And a week is not enough time for many people to find a truck, somebody to help them moving, even let alone finding a place to move to. I'll stop there.
Algo que se ha hecho este año en particular, pues él ha firmado proyectos de ley en términos de protección para inquilinos en nuestro condado de Montgomery. Algo difícil es el tema de los desalojos, pues esto está 4 veces más elevado de lo que fue hace 5 años atrás, prepandemia. Muchas personas atrasadas con el cumplimiento de pagar su alquiler y a la misma vez, pues el proyecto de ley que se firmó recientemente le da a los inquilinos 14 días una vez que tienen la orden de desalojo para irse de la propiedad Antes era una semana y esto es para darles el tiempo de poder hacer la planificación de desalojar las propiedades. 2025 was a record year for affordable housing production. What made that possible?
Money.
Good old money.
Um, I put aside a lot of money out of the last budget to target affordable housing because if we don't do it, no one's going to do it.
And when you say money, how much money was set aside?
Over $100 million.
Exactamente. Esto fue un año récord en términos de lo que es la preservación y construcción de vivienda asequible. Le pregunto qué lo hizo posible, pues obviamente, señores, el dólar, dinero. Él pues separó unos $100 millones para vivienda asequible en nuestro condado de Montgomery. Let's transition real quick, and I'm sorry, I'm just going very fast. Mobilize Montgomery, the federal workforce career center that opened this year. How is it currently still helping laid off federal workers and contractors during what has been a historic year in terms of the shutdown as well as layoffs?
That's one of those things that we've been hit with by the president, just deciding to shut down agencies, trying to shut down most of some agencies, dismantling the major medical research facility in the country, and trying to shrink it, and shrinking it very successfully, unfortunately. So it's put a lot of people out of work. We're trying to help people transition. We've served about 2,100 people through this facility. We're focused on helping people write resumes, helping people identify jobs that might match with their resume, helping people identify training they might want to get if they want to find a job that's outside their field. So basically trying to provide support for these federal workers so they can get employed as soon as possible.
Exactamente. Uno de los temas bien grandes en nuestro condado pues ha sido el desempleo. Okay. El desempleo, una de esas cosas, y también de los empleados federales, y también el tiempo que estuvieron sin trabajar producto del shutdown del gobierno. Y pues el condado de Montgomery pues, ha abierto un centro en particular para movilizar la fuerza laboral federal en nuestro condado. Se han atendido a unas 2,100 personas. Una vez más, secuela de la administración federal, donde se ha desmantelado centros de investigaciones, y lo que se está haciendo acá en el condado a través de ese centro que está ubicado en Wheaton es ayudar a las personas a preparar su hoja de vida, adiestramiento, quizás en otras capacidades para que busquen otro empleo. Priorities for 2026. We have about 6 minutes left.
Wow.
Which is your last year as county executive.
So I guess it's, to get my operating budget through the council, our goal is to preserve as much as we can possibly preserve. Right now, we're not in terrible shape. That'll probably next year, not the year that ends, not the year that we're going to start in June, but the year after that June, will probably be a harder budget because we'll feel the full impact of people who lose their jobs. The good news right now is that if the federal government goes through with firing the rest of 10 or 20,000 people they want to fire, we won't see the effect of that on the income tax until a year later. People will feel the effect, obviously, immediately, but in terms of revenues for the county, it'll be less severe. And probably the same thing's true with real estate taxes. But that said, we've also seen a real reduction in the amount of money we get from the federal government. They cut money for Head Start. They've cut money for homelessness. They cut money for drug treatment. They're basically have no regard for human life. They take the job of governing is simply, how can I send as many billions of dollars to my rich friends, and making sure I take those away from people who need it. So this is
let me go ahead and interpret all that real quick, Mr. County Executive. Metas para el año próximo, pues poder aprobar su presupuesto operativo para el condado, que será su último presupuesto operativo, preservar lo más posible los programas y servicios. Dice que no se ve tan mal el presupuesto que entra en vigor el 1 de julio del año próximo, pero el que viene después de ese puede ser mucho más difícil porque es posible que se pierdan otros 10.000, 20.000 empleos a nivel federal y esto pues obviamente tiene impacto en los ingresos a través de los impuestos de la propiedad. Hemos tenido pérdidas de recursos del gobierno federal para las personas que no tienen hogar, los tratamientos de droga adicción y todo esto pues el Ejecutivo dice que tiene que ver obviamente por la falta de piedad, de respeto de esta administración hacia las comunidades y el querer enriquecer a sus amistades. We have a couple of minutes left. Election year next year, and you're running for county council. Again,
Yes.
back to county council. Why don't you retire? Come on, enjoy life. After being a county executive, don't you want to?
No, like I enjoy serving people and I enjoy the work I do. I've always done the work I do, not out of like looking at the next, higher position to go to, but where can I do the most good for the most people? And, I feel like as an executive, I had a chance to do some really good things over it'll be 8 years that I've done that. But I still, feel like I still want to give. I'm still very interested in making sure the county supports the same kind of programs, puts money into housing, and is committed to supporting the diversity of these communities. And I want to be a voice on the council that speaks out for those things. As you know, I'm not shy about speaking out.
Y bueno, le preguntaba, let me go ahead and interpret that. Le preguntaba, ¿no? Porque después de cumplir 8 años como ejecutivo del condado, pues ahora se postula para regresar a ser concejal al Consejo del Condado de Montgomery. Le dije que por qué no se jubila y disfruta de su vida, ¿verdad? Bueno, el ejecutivo dice que él disfruta de servir, de hacer bien a la comunidad y pues después tras 8 años de ser ejecutivo, él sigue interesado en apoyar programas de vivienda y también la diversidad de este condado de Montgomery y qué mejor manera de regresar al consejo y servir en el consejo del condado de Montgomery. What is your message for residents as we close this year, not only for Spanish-speaking county residents, for our population at large?
I think, I want people to feel that the county is still alive and well. As hard as these challenges are and as discouraging as the news can be sometimes, by and large, the county's functioning pretty well. We have not had to make drastic cuts. We're not anticipating having to make drastic cuts. We may not be able to do everything we did, but I don't envision shrinking and, walking away from some of the most important things we do. And I think that, Montgomery County remains a pretty cohesive community. When we look at the strife that, often tears other places apart, we've managed to avoid that. We are much more, I think it's one of the best things about Montgomery County that it's evolved to be a diverse place and that people are comfortable with the diversity. And I think that's important.
Bueno, el mensaje para nuestra comunidad, todo nuestro condado de Montgomery, estamos vivos y estamos bien. Tendremos retos, pero no vemos que vamos a tener cortes drásticos. Quizás no vamos a poder apoyar todo lo que quiere la comunidad, pero sí vamos a dejar todas aquellas cosas que verdaderamente son importantes. La fortaleza que tenemos en nuestro condado de Montgomery, como ha evolucionado para abrazar la diversidad, continúa siendo algo de suma importancia en nuestro condado. We've run out of time. We have about 30 seconds, perhaps, Mr. County Executive. Are you doing anything fun during the holiday season?
I'm working on it. I haven't yet come up with anything. I mean, I rarely take vacations, and I'm actually thinking about taking a week off. That would be unusual for me.
You're actually taking a week off?
I'm thinking about it.
Thinking about it, okay, perfecto. Bueno, le preguntábamos qué va a hacer, todavía no tiene planes, pero está pensando quizás tomarse un refrigerio, quizás una semana libre. Well, thank you very much. I think we ran out of time. We did not cover the entire 2025 because a whole lot happened in Montgomery County, but thank you for spending some quality time with us this afternoon, Mr. County Executive. Muchísimas gracias a ustedes por esa sintonía y que tengan todos unas felices fiestas. Happy holidays, everyone. Bye.
You too. Take care.
Gracias.
Be well.
Y hasta aquí su espacio, Montgomery al Día. Gracias por su amable sintonía